Hi there, from the ABCA Convention in Nashville, Tennessee. It's time for Perfect Game College Baseball. Look, this is an event that was founded in 1945. There are coaches everywhere. She's Dani Wexelman. I'm Daron Sutton. We felt like for a couple of weeks, we may as well share the great conversations we had with you, and we're going to do so, Dani, on this show. Chris Pollard is the head coach of Duke. You had a great chat with him. Kerrick Jackson is the head coach of Memphis. He's on this show. I had a chance to talk with Andy Stankiewicz of USC, some insights from him. I love your conversations. You got lucky. You got some really great coaches.
I got great coaches. So Chris Pollard, we dove in a little bit to Duke, the athletic side, the academic side of what that program means. And I think most importantly, where the ACC is going, how it's become even more competitive than ever. And then we also talked a little bit of legislation, right? Which is so important to everybody right now. So we dabbled in everything, but I think the most important thing that he shared with me is this legislation that they are hoping gets passed. It's coming up. And we know how important the volunteer coach is to baseball programs. We know that their rosters are not expanded and they are limited in so many ways. So they are hoping that, number one, those volunteer coaches will become full-time assistant coaches.
Pay them,
and then also that rosters can become expanded. And that's something that's so important to the growth of college baseball. But we kind of covered everything, but there are some really important topics in college baseball right now.
Yeah, one of them is there are far too few talented black coaches in college baseball. Kerrick Jackson adds to the list. That gives us three: Coach Beamer, Coach Thompson, and Coach Jackson. But that number needs to rise. But he's such a passionate man, and I know you broke it down with him.
Yeah, it's awesome. So I've known Kerrick Jackson since I was a student at Mizzou. He was an assistant coach there. So I've known him and his family for a really long time, and I've watched his journey through baseball. He's had so many different roles. Now it's his first season as head coach at Memphis. He's also the ABCA diversity chair, but you mentioned it. So becoming the very first black head coach at Memphis for that baseball program. And what does that mean? What is that shoulder for him? And how does he make his team better? How does he grow the game through baseball and through the job that he's doing? He said, I don't want to be the first, but here we are. So he's setting that table. So we dove into what that means for him. He's excited about this program, excited about Memphis and where he can take the team. But most importantly, how do we grow the game? How do we make it more diverse and make it look like the rest of America?
Yeah, good call. Andy Stankiewicz, by the way, USC. He is one of those coaches in the pack that's glad to talk about the move to the Big Ten. He feels like it opens up his recruiting base. He's excited about it. He feels like he may have an advantage because the players that come from the Midwest will get soft when they come to USC. They'll get spoiled by the weather. And by the way, speaking of Stankiewicz, who built an incredible mid-major at Grand Canyon, where last year they were beating Stanford, they were beating Arizona, they were beating ASU. He is going to do the same at USC. USC has not been where they need to be the last few years. Andy hopes to change it. Let's get this show going from the ABCA, our conversation, Dani specifically, with Coach Pollard of Duke when we come back. Glad to have you with us on Perfect Game College Baseball.
We're back at ABCA in Nashville, Tennessee with Perfect Game, and I've got Duke head coach Chris Pollard with me. Coach, you're also the chair of the Division I baseball category for ABCA. I'm so excited to be here. It's only my second time at an event of this event. There's a lot of people. There's a lot of excitement going around. First day, how are you feeling being back here?
Well, I think it's incredible right after the couple of years of COVID and not having a convention. And then, Chicago last year was really tough because we still had a lot of COVID restrictions. So it feels like we've kind of busted out this year. This is the largest group of in-person attendees we've ever had at an ABCA convention. It is the largest number in terms of our overall membership in any year. I think a little over 14,500 members and 7,500 coaches attending in person this year in Nashville.
All right, so you're the Division I chair, so you know a lot more maybe than the average person does, but I like to talk about the growth of the game, and the numbers that you just shared with me makes me feel like the game is going in a good direction. Do you feel that way?
There's no question, and I think the job that Craig Kylitz has done as the executive director of the ABCA, it was really highlighted last night at our executive committee dinner. I can remember a time, Dani, back in the late 90s, early 2000s, when we would hope to maybe have 3,000 coaches in attendance at a coaches convention, and now to have 7,500. One of the neat things we talked about last night was the growth in this organization on the youth baseball side. You know, this used to be primarily a high school and college coach event. Now you see coaches across the landscape of baseball. Professional coaches, travel ball coaches, youth coaches, and of course a lot of high school and college coaches. So it's a great cross-section here this weekend.
You also mentioned that there is hopefully going to be some growth within the college game legislation that you are hoping to be passed, not only to deal with the adding coaches, full-time coaches from assistant volunteer. Can I start that over? Shoot.
No worries.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I had it. My bad. Yeah.
Yep, for sure.
Okay, great. Okay. You also mentioned that there's going to be some additions as far as legislation goes that you are hoping, fingers crossed, gets passed. And you're hoping to go from volunteer coaches to full-time assistant coaches, as well as expanding rosters permanently. There's a couple of big tickets that are really important to the game. Can you detail a little bit about what those would mean if they are enacted?
Yes, right now there are two proposals in the legislative cycle that really increase opportunities in our sport at the college level. Number one would be the permanent expansion of rosters from 35 players to 40 players. We feel like in this age where there's more players still in the college pipeline because of COVID, we now have a 20-round draft instead of a 40-round draft. We now have less minor league teams in professional baseball than ever before. We need to provide opportunities for players to keep playing this game that they love to play. So that's part one. Part two is, you know, we got to grow the game on the coaching side. If we're going to have bigger rosters, we need to make sure we've got coaches for them. And so the second piece of that legislation is a proposal that we expand our coaching staff rosters to include 2 additional full-time assistants. For those that don't know, right now in college baseball at the Division I level, there's a head coach, there's 2 full-time assistants, and a volunteer. We want to see that be 4 full-time assistants to work with and develop players. So as you mentioned, yes, fingers crossed. It's a really important month for our sport.
I feel like we've been talking about this issue for a really long time.
There's no doubt.
I know that's something you've been talking about for even longer than I have. Why do you think that it's taken so long?
Well, you know, there's a lot of factors, and the main one's money, right? I mean, there's a cost associated with additional players. There can be a cost associated with adding full-time assistants, but the game has grown so much. The TV revenue, the visibility of the sport in the postseason with the NCAA tournament, the growth of our sport in Omaha. You know, we feel like we've grown as a sport, and there's an opportunity there for more coaches and for more players to take advantage of this great game.
Yeah, it's so important, right? You've got to have the infrastructure, you've got to have the support, and we talk about the expanded rosters, you've got more kids on your team as well. When I talk to other coaches, they mention, you know, it's not just the game anymore. We're thinking about nutrition, we're thinking about mental health. There's so many different aspects of the game that aren't just secondary to the game.
No, there's no doubt. I mean, we try to look at this holistically, right? It's about developing the person, not just about developing the player. Yeah. You hit it right on the head. A baseball player can't be the best version of themselves unless their overall health is where it needs to be. That's nutrition, as you pointed out. That's recovery. That's rest. But that's also your mental health and your mental performance and being the best mental and emotional version of yourself, along with being the best physical version of yourself. And that takes manpower. Yeah. That takes folks to help our players train in all those different areas.
Yeah, Duke baseball this season, a lot of exciting things going on. You've got 6 transfers coming in. What was that process like? What makes you most excited about these newcomers?
Well, the thing I'm most excited about is just the maturity that they've brought to our program. Not only have they been impactful in terms of their performance in the fall, but they've been willing to be leaders. And you don't always get that when you get transfers. Sometimes you get guys that are happy to play their role, but want to just do that. Yeah. This group has been really good about wanting to bring along some of our younger guys, to mentor them, to help them grow as people and as players. So that part of it's been a lot of fun for me. And these guys are going to help us on the field too.
Yeah. And not only that, you've also got some new names when it comes to your staff. Brady Kirkpatrick, Ty Blankmeyer, and Eric Tyler, yes?
Great job, yes.
I did
it. We had a lot of transition this summer. Josh Jordan became the recruiting coordinator at LSU after working side by side for the last 16 years, both at Appalachian and at Duke. Thrilled for Josh. Chris Gordon became the director of player development at Texas, and thrilled to see Gordo go on and do great things in player development. And so we had openings and opportunities. Blankmeyer is a name that's synonymous with college baseball, right? His dad is a Hall of Famer. He's got a grandfather and an uncle who are Hall of Famers, and Rob Shepard and Rob Shepard Jr. And he's a guy that's grown up in the game. He has such a passion. He has such an energy. Our players gravitate towards his energy. Brady Kirkpatrick is, most recently had worked with John McCormick at Florida Atlantic, has brought just a real presence in terms of his ability to relate to our players, to our pitchers one-on-one. And Eric Tyler is a guy that I knew as a player, tremendous career at East Carolina, all-conference player there, an assistant coach with Cliff Godwin, who I have a ton of respect for, had been working on the private facility side for the last few years, but we're thrilled about the staff dynamic.
So new faces, new staff, but you also have some guys who are coming back, guys that I think super highly of as well. I wanted to dive into a little bit. Alex Mooney to start. He was a 2020 perfect game All-American. I know he's earned some preseason accolades. This guy's just a gamer. I love the way he plays. What are you looking forward to seeing from him this year?
Leadership, and he's embraced that. He was a leader for us even as a freshman last year. He's ultra competitive. I think he's one of the best competitors I've ever coached. And as good as his ability, his physical ability, and it's elite physical ability, he's an even better teammate. He cares about his teammates. He cares about the team's success. So thrilled for him to take the next step this year and knock on wood to be healthy from the start of the season, which he was not last year. He played the first part of the season, still not fully recovered, and then really turned it on over the second half of last year. Looking for him to have a huge breakout year this year.
Another guy who grew in the second half, Jonathan Santucci. Yeah. So from this summer, then you see him in the fall. What are we going to see from him as he grows this season? Yeah,
I think it's a great question. The first thing that will jump out is just his physicality. He's put on probably 15 pounds of muscle. He is a really, really strong player right now, and it's translating for him on the mound. It's also translating for him at the plate. He is a unique combination of tools, right? I mean, he can run. He's got tremendous power from the left side at the plate. He's a guy that can get it up to 94, 95, 96 miles an hour on the mound. He's a guy that's going to play a huge role for us from a pitching staff perspective, but also a guy that really projects to be in a lineup day in and day out in the outfield.
So you've got these guys who bust on the field, and I know that they do the same in the classroom. I know how important that is. We just talked to a young man. He came up here, Mac, and I think the first thing you said to him was, make sure you focus on your grades, right? And I know in 21-22 season, you guys also earned ABCA's Academic Excellence Award. What makes Duke so special when it comes to academics?
Yeah, no, I appreciate you bringing it up, and I think we've won an ABCA Academic Excellence Award every year since the award was put into place. But it's easy. It can't take any credit for it as a coach.
Okay.
Duke attracts great students.
Yes.
Right? And these guys are really low maintenance in the classroom. They're here at Duke because they're passionate about what they want to study.
So special.
And it's unique. Yeah. It really is. And so it takes very little inspiring or motivation on our part. These guys are already inspired to be really great students.
I love that. So not only that, but within the ACC, you've got this grueling schedule, right? I know that each year the development of the conference grows as well. The facilities grow, the players grow. I mean, it's incredible. You use the word attract. I mean, I think that the ACC is attracting top talent all the time. Maybe not always seen that way. Maybe other conferences get a little bit more attention. But can you speak to the development and the growth of the ACC?
Yeah, I think the biggest part of it, you look at the new hires in our league, and you interviewed John Sheff earlier today. and the job that he's done at Virginia Tech, completely transformed that program. They've built a tremendous facility. He's changed the culture. And you look at the year that they had last year, but it goes beyond Virginia Tech. Now Eric Bakich at Clemson and Mike Bell at Pitt. Yeah. And you just start looking around our league. Every time there's a new hire, Link Jarrett and what he did at Notre Dame and now at Florida State, there's just a lot of really passionate, really talented coaches, and that's elevated. I think our league is really elevated from the bottom as much as it has elevated from the top. And it's made our 10-week ACC schedule just an absolute meat grinder, but it's great for the league.
Yeah, absolutely. And the growth, I mean, we mentioned it a little bit. Again, you are the Division I chair for ABCA, and I like to look big picture too. We looked small, and I want to look a little bit bigger too. As far as your hopes for college baseball at every level, not only the teams, but the kids who are coming to play and the families that are starting to pay even more attention to what does it take to play for Duke and programs of your caliber. What are your hopes for college baseball in the future?
Well, I think a number of things. One, in continued increased visibility. We want to continue to expand the TV market for our sport. We hope that leads to continued improvement in revenue streams, which ultimately should continue to grow facilities. It should hopefully grow scholarship opportunities. It should grow NIL opportunities for our players, and just the rising tide kind of lifts all ships. And we talked about this in our executive committee meetings yesterday. The hope is that as Division I baseball expands rosters and hopefully presents more opportunities for coaches, there's a trickle-down effect across all levels of college baseball.
Yeah, and what your program does, obviously, there is so much success. We talked about the recruiting class, the 2022 recruiting class, and the impact. What is the impact that you hope to see from them, or that you do think you will see from them this coming season? Yeah,
it's a really talented group. I think in any immediacy this coming spring, you'll see a lot of guys that infuse a lot of ability on the mound for us. Yeah. I think there's some guys that are going to project to really help us at the plate, but right away you're going to see some freshman arms that play big roles for us this spring.
I love that. Coach, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, Dani, thanks for having me.
I was feeling home when I bring USC, and I'm a Southern California guy, but we had to come all the way to Nashville, Tennessee, to talk with USC head coach Andy Stankiewicz. Thanks for hanging out with us, my friend.
Sutton, my pleasure. Thank you for having me. What a great event.
What do you love most about this event? You've been here probably wearing many different hats, mid-major coach, scout, guy that's running minor league organizations. Now here you are, there's a lot of guys like you, but then there's, junior high coaches, all the way up to big league managers. What do you love most about this event?
I think it's a great opportunity for, I said 8,000 coaches here. I think it broke a record. All coming together, and I think everyone loves the game of baseball. We heard Coach Mike Bianco speak this morning and share his story of what a great year they had last year, and just it's a great opportunity to sit back and listen and learn and reunite with friends, right? And see guys you haven't seen in a long time, and I think everybody just kind of gets rejuvenated. We know that spring is right around the corner. We know that we'll go back to our schools and start practicing here quickly, but it's just a great time to get together and just encourage one another, and look forward to just every year getting a chance to see everybody again, and then listening and learning, and then all of these exhibits here. There's so many different things out there that you think can help your program, and you take a look at and see, you purchase and you see if it could help.
I think I'd be shocked if you didn't tell me you're a lifelong learner. I'm guessing you are, but what's your version of continuing to learn? I mean, you played professionally at the highest levels. You've coached successfully. Heck, you managed in the minor league. You've done it all. You've scouted. But what does your version of being a lifelong learner look like?
So great question. I think, we live in a world where it's quick clips. Like Twitter, believe it or not, I'm not like a social media guy, but man, I go to it often just because I can see different drills that people do, whether it's hitting or infield. I listened to Coach Bianco this morning talk about some phrases he used to motivate his guys. I think that's obviously a great gift of his. We saw head coach for Stetson already this morning show some drills that he does. You know, at where we're at, we don't have all day to practice, as you know, because of NCAA rules, and we don't want to be on the field forever either. But I'm watching him do some drills that he does with his guys to try to get him in, get him out, that are effective and they can learn. And so you're always just trying to observe and watch. I think I learn better from observation personally. And so I'll take video and I'll look at it and I'll sit down with our staff and go, hey, do you think this will work? Do you think this makes sense? And if we do, let's try it, you know? And so I think we're always trying new things and trying different ways to get our point across.
You and I were just talking over there pre-interview. I've been fortunate enough about 8 years to be one of the voices of the Pac-12 network, and this conference is just better when USC's better. I mean, it just simply put is. As I share that thought to you, what does that mean to you as you take over the role of that head coach?
Well, I think, you know, I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, I grew up in Southern California, as you know, and I grew up at a time when Coach Data was the head coach, and then Coach Gillespie took over the head coaching position at USC, and two icons in the coaching world, as you know, and at USC. And so, and they were very successful. And that was just, you knew growing up that was kind of the premier or one of the premier baseball programs in the country. And it was interesting. I didn't really know much about the College World Series, but I knew about USC. So to me, USC was like more powerful than the World Series. And for whatever reason, I don't know. But that's the influence it had on my life. And so I think you're right. I think that you look at the landscape of college baseball, and to the credit of the SEC and the Texas and all the schools and Florida, but I do think that I think we've got to get Southern California back into it. Not necessarily USC, but UCLA. Coach Savage has done a great job, and you see some of the schools, and Fullerton's Fullerton will get moving again with Coach Dietrich, and so it's all part of it. And I think I agree, man. USC getting back to where we've all kind of known where USC has been is our goal, and I think that's we're going to get it done.
Well, you nailed it. I was talking more conference, but now you made me the SoCal kid again. And I, as a senior in high school, used to drive to watch Mike Harkey pitch at Fullerton. I used to go watch, Mike Maine's son catch at Orange Coast. So, but whether it's, no matter the highway and the 22 and connecting, Southern California is an amazing place for college baseball, and you can add Santa Barbara into that mix.
For sure, absolutely.
As well, and it's incredible to see. So you're going to take that Southern California energy in a couple of years and pull the Midwest in with you. I know right now you're coaching in the Pac, and that's your job, is to coach in the Pac. How does that transition work, or is it really, Andy, not even addressed right now?
Well, it's. I think right now where we're at right now is just kind of in that kind of rebuilding stage. We really haven't discussed it too much. I think right now it's our main. What's important is establishing USC, right? Again, what we want to do here. I think that, but you're right. There is that. There's the Big Ten right around the corner, right? So that's real and that's happening. And I think that'll, when we get there, we'll think about, okay, that is using the Midwest as a possible recruiting landscape as well. And I think USC is a national brand. I think you can recruit on our roster already. We have kids from Connecticut and Chicago and Texas, and so we're already, being able to not just stay in Southern California. I think, so we're able to use that as a recruiting piece as well. Hey, even though you're from Indiana, possibly, or Michigan or New Jersey, right? You come play at USC, and you're going to come back home, right? You're going to get a chance to come back and play here close to your friends and your family. And so that's a big part of it, I think, as we move forward. And, everyone talks about the cold weather. It's like, I'll put a jacket on. And the player, when you play as a player, you don't worry about the weather anyways. So I think people are worried about cold as us old coaches. But no, I'm excited about it. I've never been to Michigan. I've never been to Indiana. I've never been to Nebraska. Some of these places, Penn State. I'm excited about going to those ballparks. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I want to ask you about some of your players, and I want to start with the unique combination of the Aoki brothers. You have Caden, who's going to try and grab a spot, maybe in your rotation, a pitcher. Both Huntington Beach kids. You got Connor, who's joined you back from Binghamton. You even explained to me he's your lone NCAA tournament roster guy. But talk to me about having brothers play together, how fun that's been.
Oh, it's been fun. Obviously.
And a pitcher-catcher, too.
Pitcher-catcher, yeah. I just told him, hey, if they're both going to play, and they're both fantastic young men. They both are going to be pivotal in year one for us. I just said, hey, if things get a little sideways, just make sure if you get a fight in the dugout. Don't do it on the mound. All right. But no, they're great kids. They work hard. Connor is like you said, is the only one that's in our program that's had postseason experience, and so to bring him back home, great influence on our younger guys. And then Caden coming from Notre Dame, he's not your 6'4", 195 mile-an-hour fastball guy, but he's 88 to 91, throw strikes. He pitches backwards. He's got tremendous amount of confidence on the mound. We need him to have a big year for us, and we're hoping and we're expecting him to have a big season for us as well.
So it's interesting. I'm not enough of a fanboy if I don't ask about Jaden Agassi for a couple of reasons. Obviously, his family background with Dad Andre and Mom Steffi Gropp, but he was a Select Festival young man many years ago playing at a PG event. I look at his numbers last year for your squad before you came on board. He 8 innings for USC, certainly. How has he evolved for you? Is he going to be able maybe to give you even more than he gave the team last year?
Yeah, we hope so. Definitely. He's one of our guys that we've slated as being one of our starting pitchers on a weekend. He went home this offseason. He tried to bulk up a little bit, and he's a little bit bigger, thicker Jaden Agassi, I think, that you've maybe seen in the past. And so I think it's just part of what he's trying to do. He's just trying to kind of reinvent that a little bit for himself. But he's been great. He's a strike thrower, as you can tell by the stats. I think he's starting to Seth Etherton, our new pitching coach, who's fantastic, ex-Trojan, 3-time All-American. He's starting to help our guys establish working inside with a fastball a bit more, and so getting our guys, college baseball, a lot of times guys lean out over the plate a little bit, and so I think we got to reestablish the inside part of the plate again, and Seth has been fantastic at that mindset with our staff, and I think Jaden, because Jaden doesn't have overpowering stuff,
Okay.
He's not a 95 guy, but he's low 90s.
Neither did Seth, though.
No, right, exactly. And so you got a guy that's did it at the highest level and explained to our guys, you can pitch really, really successfully at 91, 92, and 93. You don't have to throw 98. And so that whole mentality that our guys are learning, I think Jaden is going to take off and have a great year for us. There's
an interesting transfer I want to ask you about. His name is Ryan Jackson. Now, I've been able to do some games in that conference, and he was at Nevada last year where, 344 really hit. He's on your squad now. Tell us who he is, your Nevada transfer.
Yeah, he's been a breath of fresh air for us. He got to a hot start in the fall. He's a bat to ball skill guy, and I think you've known me enough to where I really, really appreciate guys that put the ball in play. He doesn't strike out. He's used the middle of the diamond really well. He can play short. He can play second. So we're just we put him at both short and second during the fall. He's steady Eddie, man. He just shows up every day. He loves to play. He's a great teammate. He's already, if you asked our players who's one of the newcomers that they didn't know has really earned their respect, they would say Connor Aoki and Ryan Jackson are probably at the top, just because of the way that the both of them go about their business. Just really professional in what they've done. And so, we're excited to have him. We're really thankful that we were able to get him in that transfer portal.
And Mark Grzelcyk's son chose your squad as well to move on over and maybe help you out. Bryce Grzelcyk. Tell us a little bit about Bryce.
Yeah, Bryce, skilled young man, great kid, man. Works his tail off, loves the game. He's got a skill set. He's got some bat to ball skills, similar to his dad, as you know. A wiry kind of body, a little bit different physique than his dad. Wiry, been playing third, been playing short, been playing second. So I've been kind of moving those guys around. I don't necessarily yet know where they'll be playing once we break open the season, but that's kind of always been the way I've done it in the infield, is just move guys around from different spots just so they get comfortable. So I do think that you need to help them learn how to be versatile. We may even find him in the outfield, and he's been great with it. He's like, Coach, I'll play anywhere. I'll do anything, whatever you want me to do. But great young man. He works hard. He's another guy that, man, we're really excited to have.
I want to ask you about one more of your athletes, Tyler Stromsburg. Again, like Jaden, his numbers tell us he didn't miss a ton of bats, but he pitched effectively. Has he evolved in that area, and how important is he to you?
Yeah, I think so. I think one of the things that Seth has done a great job with Tyler is to have him work off of his fastball. He's got a good breaking ball and a good changeup. So I think sometimes which is great, but I think again, Seth, all of our pitchers is having them establish the fastball number one, and not necessarily out over the plate. Obviously, down and away always works, but we got to get back in with our fastball. So I think Tyler's one of those guys who's starting to understand. Like, I think you're going to see more strikeouts from our guys this year, from Tyler and Jaden, because of our ability to throw a fastball in, and not just always stay away. But big, strong, athletic young man. Jaden and Tyler, those are two guys that we're going to count on significantly as we get into our season.
For a man who's even got a few years on me, I don't want to age you that much, but
probably more than a few.
You've done it all, right? You've done it all. That being said, when Feb 17, Dato Field, Marist rolls out, you guys get set, you're warming up. Will you resurface those butterflies a little bit, even though you've done so many different things?
No question.
That's cool, right?
I don't think I've ever put a uniform on and walked into a dugout without getting nervous. It's just everything. Every game is big. Every game is important. But this is special. I walk up to that ramp at Dato Field, and I stand there and I look at that wall and I see Dato Field and the scoreboard. I'm blessed, man. I'm like Coach Dato and Coach Gillespie. Again, those guys are icons, and tell our coaching staff all the time, man, we're really fortunate to get to do what we do. Get to lead young men, and we get to do it at USC. I'm not sure it gets much better than that.
Yeah, this generation of athlete talks about you in the same breath, so that's a good thing. Congratulations on that. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Thanks, Seth. My pleasure.
Love talking USC with Andy. Hanging a good time here at ABCA.
Welcome into ABCA in Nashville, Tennessee. I am so excited because I am here with my friend, but also, maybe more importantly, head coach at Memphis University, your first season as head coach and ABCA diversity chair. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am so good. We have so many exciting things to talk about. You are back as a head coach now. You have spent so many years journeying through college baseball, so many different jobs and positions and titles, but now as a head coach. I just want to know to start, what are you most looking forward to this season?
You know what? I think it's just the idea of putting these guys in a position and getting in there and changing the culture, getting them to understand the process of winning and not necessarily be worried about winning itself, understanding that winning is something we can't control, but we can control whether or not we're in a position to win. And I think if our guys understand that and can get themselves in a position where they grasp that concept, we're going to be in a really good spot.
A lot of new things. You've got new faces coming in. The coaching staff is new. I'd love for you to highlight the names on the coaching staff you brought in and why they'll be so important to your program.
For sure. We'll start with Coach Jamison, who I worked for at the University of Missouri. And I think that's just ultimately, as I tell people, when you think about coach outside of grandmother, mother, father, sister, brother, aunt, cousin, uncle, coach is probably the biggest term of endearment that there is, and it shows that you have that level of respect for somebody that you refer to as coach. And so for me to be able to have an opportunity to take a man who hired me 2010 and now be able to come back and have him come on staff just shows what I think about him and how important I think he's going to be to the success that we're going to have at the University of Memphis. So he's in there. He's pitching coach for us. I hired Julian Henson, who is a local from Memphis, played pro ball, very passionate about the game, very passionate about our kids and the city of Memphis. This is his first college coaching opportunity, but I think for me, being able to go out and recognize someone that has a strong knowledge base about the game, to the fact that he's a catching guy, being able to bring a catching guy so we have somebody with our catchers, and just growing him up, and I'm comfortable with his passion and desire to learn that we're going to be in a great position with him there. We kept Ryan Huber on staff, who was a volunteer assistant previously. I think his energy and the way he looks at things matches up to what we're about. We're able to add a director of player development in Joe DeToli, whiz 4.0 math majors that went to WashU. But he's a baseball guy, so understands the data, but knows the practical application of it.
Okay, so a lot of new faces. So exciting to have those guys as a part of your team. And I know how important the word team is to you and how you're going to build that chemistry. I watched you do it when I was at Mizzou, when I was a student and you were on the staff, which is how I do know you. But 19 new faces, 7 of them incoming freshmen. How do you build chemistry? You've got the fall, and then you head in. We're already about a month away from the start of the season. So how did you build the chemistry, and what have you learned about your team?
You know what? It's just a matter of preaching family. We don't talk about it in terms of us and them. It's really about the idea of family and what that means. Talking to them about the importance of playing for the guy next to you, being committed to him, being accountable to him being accountable to you, and knowing that we all have to be in this together to make this thing happen. So this team really meshed well together without us having to do a bunch. I think everybody was excited about change. I think I delivered the message and how we were going to go about our business, and again, that we're in it together. I told our guys, the returners, I said, you'll never hear me go out in the media and make a statement with saying, well, once we get our guys, I say, anybody who's here, you become our guys. So I think just being able to put them in a level of comfort right away helped with that bonding aspect of things.
I mentioned the journey that you have been on throughout college baseball and all the different titles and roles that you've held. You're coming back, now a head coach, your first season. What have you learned along the way that you hope to carry in? I mean, you mentioned Coach Jamison and what he's meant to you, and I'm sure you've picked something from every stop. So what do you, like, Kerrick Jackson, like, who is he and what's his program about?
You know, it's like you said, I've been very blessed to have all those different opportunities. When you look at it, basically doing everything there is to do in the game. Some of them I don't ever have to do again, but experience is experience. And I think for us, again, what we preach to our guys is this is about development of them as people. That our relationships are going to be transformational relationships. They're not going to be transactional relationships. There is a transactional aspect that goes with college athletics, but I think if we can focus on them as people and grow and develop them as young men, I think the winning will take care of itself. And so when we talk about the idea of what we expect or how we want them to produce, it's about being true to self, staying the people that we believe that they were when we recruited them. They have ability. Their ability will manifest itself as long as they hold to those values.
We talked a little bit before we started about you and the table setting that you are doing, and you don't want to be the first. You don't want to be the first, but you are the first. And so that's an important role. First Black head baseball coach at Memphis, and you're setting the table for so many other people. You're visible, which is important. When someone can see you doing that job, they know they can do it too.
Yes.
You're also the ABCA diversity chair. What do you carry on your shoulders, but also what do you hope to see some changes throughout the baseball community, specifically in college?
So I think first it's a great responsibility. But I think for me, I know it's not about me. I know it's about what we can do to make it better for people that come after me. And so just the idea of being the first black head baseball coach at the University of Memphis in a city that's 65% black on a campus that's 40% minority, there's a lot there, right? It became surreal to me when I was out in the grocery store and I had an old woman come up to me and say, "You're the new baseball coach at Memphis, right?" I said, "Yes, ma'am." She said, "I've never been to a baseball game in my life before, but I'm coming." Right, so there's just something that is inspiring when it comes to that. Not to mention, one of the best things about my press conference was there was a young man who was 12 years old that came to the press conference with his mother, waited until the press conference was over, waited until all the shaking hands and kissing babies, and his mother said, "We weren't leaving until he got a chance to meet you, because when the news announcement came out and your face went up and saying you were the new head coach at University of Memphis," he said, "Mama, we got to be there because I want to play for him." Doesn't get any better than that, right? And that's what it's about. So being able to put us in a position where there's visibility on our program, that we create more opportunities for minority coaches, for minority players, and continue to grow this game in those communities. And I think this is part of that. The diversity committee, being the head coach at Memphis, all those things fit into that.
Is there something you can share with us that the committee is hoping to implement, or changes, or just support that you're hoping to see in the future?
Yeah, so this year, one of the things that we're doing is we've picked out 13 minority assistant coaches, and we've lined up 12 head coaches, and we're going to have these minority assistant coaches meet with those head coaches just to kind of get them going, create an opportunity where they can increase their network, ask questions of these head coaches. with this vote that's coming up here in January, with the idea of potentially increasing the number of accountable coaches that you can have in baseball, maybe we're able to create some opportunities for some of these young coaches that want to get up and get involved. And minority for us just isn't black, right? It's Asian, Hispanic, it's female. We have 2 female coaches that are going to be assistant coaches that are going to be there as well. So it's truly about growth of the game holistically, and I think we're in a great place to do it.
We talk a lot about the baseball community, right? And I mean, we look here, there are 7,500 plus coaches here, which blows my mind in Nashville at this convention. We talk about the community a lot. What can the community do to support this and to make sure that it's nice to set the table, but how do we make sure that everyone gets to keep showing up to the table? I
think be intentional, right? I think it's ask questions. We know that sometimes when it comes to race, it can be an uncomfortable situation. And one of the things, obviously, went through all the George Floyd stuff. I had a bunch of coaches at other institutions that called and said, hey, what do we need to do? I said, you need to be comfortable being uncomfortable, right? We tell our players that all the time, but as coaches, are we in a position to do that same thing? And when it comes to race, those conversations can be uncomfortable. When it comes to creating opportunities and asking somebody to come along, those can be uncomfortable situations. So I think if we can just be comfortable being uncomfortable and everybody open it up to, hey, making sure you're having conversations, making sure that you're reaching out, doing some different things, I think we can be in a great spot.
I love that. I hope that we can. I'm so excited for you in your first season, for this adventure, your family as well, but for those players and your coaching staff, I know that they're going to be taken care of. So thanks for spending some time with me. Have fun this season. Good luck.
Thank you.
Yeah.